thing, the other thing I wanted to bring up was the Million MAGA March that just happened. We were talking about that earlier. Fill me in on that.
Thank you so much, Tudy, for all of that. Yeah, it's been unbearable here in California, and fortunately, we are exercising our rights and uniting together to have a voice against that. So we'll have all those details in the description box on our Instagram. But yeah, I don't know too much about the Million MAGA March, but it's been happening over this past weekend, and it's been getting a lot of attention. From my understanding, initially, it was a very peaceful organization. I believe it was quoted as having over 1 million people there. And yeah, it's just an interesting mix of where we've come to, as you called us California conservatives. It's not what you would, I think there's some misconceptions of what that rally looks like. And I think a lot of people have this image of, echoing how Trump supporters were portrayed to us back in 2016 as, the build that wall. And, I have like a Squidbillies image, in my mind of.
There was a lot of rhetoric, a lot of movie quotes, if you will.
Right.
Yeah, in the last 4 years, yeah.
But yeah, that you kind of would almost have that impression, and I think a lot of kind of the left side that's been pushing for Trump to just concede, as with Biden being the projected winner, and are just like almost dumbfounded by why are these Republicans like being so persistent and loyal to this fascist, it's like concerning, it's dividing. And I think what's interesting is that from what I've followed on Instagram from the Million MAGA March was just like some really beautiful interactions of people sharing and having discussions about what it means to be an American, about what it means to be a patriot, of trying to show each other respect and unite, of like give an example of what that could possibly mean for Americans to take a stand and demand authentic, true, legitimate election. I'm not saying that description necessarily represents every single of those million people, whether that were there or not. Who's to say how many people were actually there? Some dispute that, plenty of the articles say that there was thousands of people there, not even hundreds of thousands, but just thousands. So anywhere in between, give or take, thousands, millions. You do the math. But yeah, and then of course, as the event continued, there did begin to be some altercations and incidences of violence that have been shared and going viral. And I don't know too much of the details in particular of that, but one thing I have seen, and maybe we'll post that as well on our stories or something, was a clip of how some of the instigators in multiple different events, and that you could see even from the lighting in the background that the day had kind of progressing, that they were at a morning altercation, an afternoon one, and a twilight one, that these same instigating that they just so happen to be planted at all these particular events that just so happen to be filmed. So we're kind of gauging right now. We're in the beginning. We're having a conversation. Tudy and I both have kind of like a complementary spectrum of our perspectives based on our own personal experiences and where we're coming from. So I feel like we kind of get the full scope of things. But also we're wanting to, meet our audience where we're at. So we don't want to dive off too far into conspiracies, but some people may be familiar with the concept of crisis actors. Sometimes there's even posts on things like Craigslist or actors' websites for, a lot of, you could look up false flags, basically, and how we interact with what's happening now and decode and make our decisions of how to respond to the events of now depend on kind of our perception of how much is real and how much is propaganda. And during the Obama administration, he made it legal to use propaganda on the American public. So it used to be that you couldn't legally try to persuade the general public, especially in a political sense, through our media and entertainment means, that they were supposed to be a free common space for us, you know, to share those arts. And of course, it's an incredible tool. You know, it's our entertainment, our entrainment of the mind. So I guess where I'm going with all this is
a good example of what she's talking about is it wasn't during the Obama administration, but a good example is the military being like full blown thrown into the NFL, like in the beginning of the games and things like that.
Right.
Like kind of using the nature of public things to push a certain narrative. Right. I'm not anti-military or anything. In fact, I completely support our military. But that's kind of what she's talking about. That would be considered propaganda in a sense.
Right. Thank you. And so I guess just to gear that back towards the Million MAGA March, is that this could potentially be a beautiful expression of freedom. It's kind of been the theme of 2020 is protest and demonstration. So it was interesting that I came across this viral video that I sent to you of how I guess there was people that in protest to the Million MAGA March were posting pancakes with the Million MAGA March hashtag, so that way it would flood the feed. So instead of seeing videos pertaining to the march, that they would see pancakes. And a lot of them were not just pancakes, but, you know, kind of antagonizing pancakes, where it would have like F Trump or something spelled out in like chocolate chips or blueberries on top of it, or, you know, like kind of baiting or mocking the people at the march. And I just found it so fascinating that here's the party that's supposed to represent peace and kindness and equality and free speech and all of those things. And not only did they not choose their own hashtag to promote in contrast to the Million MAGA March, but they chose to infiltrate and suppress the Million MAGA March's voice.
Divide and conquer.
So this whole theme of 2020 has been our voice being heard with the voter suppression arguments, the censorship on social media. We've been fighting to have our voice heard. And then the other thing has been protest, for us to be able to assemble or not. The freedom to be outside, even that is a controversial issue now, to be outside of your house in this day and age. What you doing? You know, do you have a reason to be out there? You know, is that a protest that's worthy of people assembling or not? You know, like, we're in a bizarre territory now, and it's just really fascinating, the cognitive dissonance that people are operating under right now. And I think part of our attempt and intention with this cast is just to help people to kind of like wake up, not in like a condescending sense, but just like share, like snap out of it.
Yeah.
You know, like we're not making sense. We look like the Festival of Fools right now, because all the fundamental things of what it is to be American we're vehemently against right now. That free speech could be so criticized and hated and demeaned, but in the name of free speech.
It's interesting to see or to understand that we have gone so far into this idea of into this weird dissected idea of what equality really is, that we sat there and decided that it's not okay to express other opinions.
Right.
That you know, vehemently maybe be the opposite of how you feel personally about whatever, you know, subject may be at hand. And it doesn't even, and it's generalized that way because that's just how it is with everything right now. You know what I mean? So it's not exactly there's no like real science to how there's no real science I just lost my train of thought. But it's not. We're hypocrites. Let's put it that way. Like
yeah, exactly.
I was trying to like word it so I wasn't trying to be like a jerk about it, but where we're being hypocritical.
Not trying to shade nobody, but
right,
call a spade a spade.
we look kind of dumb now,
right?
And it's and instead of being okay and being wrong and being okay with being wrong and looking silly and then saying, hey man, how do we change it? How do we go about actually fixing the plumbing? We're still sitting here like you said, it's a complete denial as to what's really going on. We're all being tricked essentially, and we're all sitting in a house full of mirrors.
Right.
So much so that we don't really see what's in front of us, regardless of how in front of us it really is. So yeah, it's an interesting view on the Million MAGA March. I didn't pay too much attention to it. The last protest that I was a part of was the Occupy movement, which was 2012, I think, October 2011, maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
Something
11
like
before.
that, which was a blast and was peaceful and was nothing like what we see today, mind you.
Right.
So I as far as protests go and are concerned, I don't see them as being directly affected especially now because of the division. So I didn't really pay too much attention, but the idea that a lot of people, be it in the thousands, be it in the millions, the idea that people collectively went out with this idea that unity does exist and we can still pursue it.
Right.
And whether it was, you can't really, I'm not sure any protest has ever been completely 100% peaceful. We can't really say that, but as far as I've seen, that one had full intentions on being nothing but a peaceful protest. I believe they were protesting the voter fraud. Was that what it was? Yeah. Okay. So.
Right. Thank you. I didn't even touch on it. What are they mad about?
I think. Yeah. What are they mad about? Yeah. I think it was the voter fraud.
I believe it was. Yeah.
But like you said, the simple fact that they didn't even bother to make up another hashtag in counter protest. They basically flooded the Million MAGA March hashtag because they knew it would work. It's literally, if you ask me, I've only seen it in the last few years, but there's a lot of divide and conquer, and it seems like that strategy right now is working.
Exactly.
It's so medieval, but
it's
working,
unfortunate.
It really is. It's unfortunate, but yeah, I love that you brought it up that way. That it's the suppressed are now the suppressors, and interesting. It's just interesting to see, and it's going to be an interesting fight, no matter where you come from. The point of the fight isn't to divide and conquer; it's to inform and unite. So I hope that sooner than later we get there. You have anything more to add, my dear?
I think we'll save it for another episode, but that's beautiful. And thank you so much for all that you shared. And again, we'll have the recall petition information on our page in a post so that you can sign and help us to represent there.
Cool. Sounds good. All right. Well, I'm Tudio. You can find me at Tudio My Hero on Instagram. You can find the podcast at Off the Mark Cast. Off the Mark Cast. We haven't made a website yet, but we're gonna. Anyway, so we'll find us on Instagram, Off the Mark Cast. We're also on Twitter, Off the Mark _cast or Off the Mark _podcast.
_cast.
Just find us. We're there. Ma'am, where can we find you?
And I am Meeks Colley, and you can find me at wild_flourish currently, and Off the Mark Cast on Instagram. And we look forward to connecting with you all next time. We have a lot of discussions. We're going to keep this conversation rolling in the next episode, but also feel free to make comments below and tell us what else you want us to explore. Yeah.
Right. Feel free to ask any questions you want. We are more than happy to look into anything you guys have questions about. Miss Wisdom over here, I mean, trust me, she's got it. She's got it all. Well, thank you so much. You guys stay blessed, stay healthy, stay safe, ma'am.